But let's start with Chelsea and Liverpool. You kind of had the derby off the pitch for Moises Caicedo. We'll get to him in a minute. Chelsea, it appears, has won that, submitting the highest bid. I think 115 million pounds, or rising to 150 million, is what's been reported. But let's talk about the game first, because people said this was a very exciting game. I thought those were two very daring, caution to the wind performances from the two sides. Did that surprise you a little bit, especially considering that both these teams are still incomplete and short?
Not so much when you saw the people that he put out on, or both managers put out on the pitch, but I was surprised at the attitude of both sides in terms of they both wanted to press the ball. They left players high up the field at times when they were building up from the back so that they could then go that little bit longer when they needed to. The position of the Chelsea wingbacks was a major surprise at times. You know, we know they love to get forward, but at times Chilwell was almost playing as an outside left, which meant that Colville against Salah was a problem in the first half. So there was lots of things that were very good about the game, the attacking side of it, the adventure. One or two things that will need adjusting if they're going to be challenging for top four positions, I would say.
So one obvious thing about the game was when you are so daring. I mean, I thought in the first half, you know, at one point between Salah hitting the crossbar, the other goal that was disallowed, which, you know, was millimeters, right? You say it was disallowed, but you know, it's obviously not part of your plan to cut it that close. At some point, Chelsea could have been 3-0 down. Yeah. But that's the thing about football, right? This is the thing about taking risks. You could have been 3-0 down. Instead, you weren't. So Chelsea got back into it. And I thought in the second half, Chelsea made things work better. Yeah. Again, helped by Liverpool also going head-to-head with them. But it felt like, to me, Chelsea had more solidity.
Yes, in the second half. It's all about, sometimes, it's not so much about how the manager sets up. It's quite often about decision-making. You know, as a midfield player, do I make that decision to go and press the ball, or do I drop off quickly to make sure that we can't be counter-attacked? And quite often, Chelsea's players in the first half got it wrong. They went to close the ball down, they got played around, and suddenly it was a back three against maybe 3 or 4 Liverpool players. So as time wears on, I think sure Pochettino will get the better out of the players defensively. They will make better decisions and they will have a better understanding of what he wants. It was a good game in terms of seeing some free-flowing football. We saw Jackson running with the ball at pace. He looked a much better player than I thought he was when I saw him in La Liga last year. So lots of good things.
In terms of Liverpool, obviously they're short a midfielder, which is why they tried for Moises Caicedo. He opted to play Cody Gakpo, dropped Alexis McAllister in front of the back four. Szoboszlai as well, like, you know, he's a midfielder, but, you know, he's played an attacking midfielder winger. No, he had a good game, but, like, essentially you could argue that these were 5 forwards on the pitch, and plus an attacking midfielder, McAllister, plus Alexander-Arnold. Right? Some people don't feel is really a right back. That's a big ask. Why is Klopp setting up that? I mean, he does have other players. We saw Curtis Jones coming on. You know, there are other options. Is he sending a message?
I think he's sending a message, and he's the sort of manager about the defensive side of the game, and he believes this. And I don't think he probably does enough work on the actual back 4 or back 3 when Alexander-Arnold was playing in central midfield. It's all about pressing the ball. If we press the ball well enough with enough players and we win the ball back, we won't have problems defensively. We'll cut it out at source.
But the thing is, if you're Cody Gakpo and you played forward and winger all season, and then you're in midfield, yes, you can say, I work hard and stuff, but your pressing triggers, your pressing movements are different when you play in a midfield 3, right? Yeah. So that's a huge adjustment that he has to make.
Hey, he does. But I also had a chat with all the technical staff when they bought Wijnaldum to the club. And they said for the first few weeks, we can't play Wijnaldum, who was a midfield player by trade, and a very good one, because they said he didn't know how to press the ball. And we can't have him in the side because he keeps on getting played around. Eventually, that will happen for us. We'll make him a very good presser.
And they did. Wijnaldum became a pressing machine. He was in his palm.
And that's what they worked at. And I'm sure that's what they're going to try and do
with Gakpo.
With Gakpo and Szoboszlai.
That's an interesting concept. I hadn't thought of that before. Quickly on Moises Caicedo, we're going to get into it more on the Gab and Juls podcast. It's an enormous amount of money. Is this now instantly Caicedo, Enzo? Is this the best midfield duo in the universe?
I'm not
or
sure.
You're still going to lean towards Rodri and. What else?
I mean, it's a very good combination. Obviously, they can both play with the ball. They can both make forward runs. Because I always say, and you were talking about holding midfield, as everybody talks about holding midfield players, attacking midfield players. A midfield player should be able to do both sides of the game. Caicedo can do both sides of the game. He can win the ball back, and he can also pass it, and he can run forward.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.